What is up, my ninjas? This is your boy Majin AN here, recording late at night for this AFC edition of the Fantage update or Fantage, Fantasy Manage. Yeah, you know that. I seem a bit tired, but rest assured, I am on my way to being a professional. So I'm gonna power through it and give you the best updates for fantasy football that you need because I love it when people enjoy their fantasy football and I can help. Anyways, yeah. We are now in possibly the strongest division of the AFC, the AFC West. Very good teams, very good fantasy usage. It has the most highest fantasy value of all the four divisions in AFC. So let's get started with the best team in that division, which is surprisingly not the Chiefs. It is the Chargers. Okay. The Chargers, Justin Herbert, second year QB like Joe Burrow and Tua Tagovailoa. But unlike them, he's not flirting with startable or must start. Justin Herbert is a must start. He's been off to a hot start, averaging 3 touchdowns a game, maybe even more. He's been on fire, so definitely Herbert is a must start. No debate. You have to have have common sense. He's must start. Don't don't think otherwise. No second thoughts. As for the receiving core, very good to decent fantasy value. Keenan Allen always has startable fantasy value as the lead receiver of that team. Always doing good, but surprisingly, someone might have overtaken him as the lead receiver of the team, especially in fantasy. Mike Williams. Mike Williams has had multiple games where he's had over 100 yards of receiving and 2 touchdowns. He's had games like that. And his fantasy value is the highest it's ever been. He is must-start territory now. Just like Keenan Allen, who is startable. Keenan Allen is startable, but he's not like must-start. He flirts with must-start. He's in must-start territory. But Mike Williams is entering must-start territory. Is like on must-start territory. Being considered for must-start. As for Darius Guyton, not bad. Flex value wise. I mean, especially if one of the other players got injured. And then. Oh, the screen froze for a second. My bad. Then there's the tight ends. Jared Cook, always useful tight end. Not like super startable, but he is startable. Not a must start. And Donald Parham. Now that's a stash. I forgot to mention in the AFC East video that Denzel Mims and Elijah Moore are stashes. But Donald Parham is a stash. He's getting more usage, and he's had back-to-back games where he's caught a touchdown on the opening drive. So you might see more of him in the future. And that's it. And his fantasy values slowly increasing. And now it's time for the running backs. Austin Eckler must start. No debate. Must start. Austin Eckler has always been a very versatile receiver back who can run. He was a unicorn when he first came into the league. Like overtaking Melvin Gordon as the lead runner and receiver. Austin Eckler's must start. His backups have good fantasy too when they start. Like Josh Jackson, not bad. Roundtree is starting to look like he will get like more fantasy value and usage throughout this season. And that's it about the running backs. As for the defense, decent. It's startable at times, but it's also matchup dependent. So it's Pretty decent defense. And that is it with the Chargers. Now we're going to the Broncos. Teddy Bridgewater, a man who almost lost his leg and his career, just like Alex Smith. Actually, not like Alex Smith. But yeah, Teddy Bridgewater, he's startable. But if you have better options, start them over Teddy Bridgewater. And he's startable to good backup. He's not like super awesome, but he's like very usable. So you can go with that. As for receiver usage, the Broncos have one of the deepest and strongest receiving cores in the league. And especially valuable fantasy football wise. Courtland Sutton leading the fray. He's almost in must-start territory. He flirts with must-start territory and must-start, so not bad. Jerry Jeudy, when he's healthy, also flirts with must-start territory, but we have to see more of him when he gets back. And Tim Patrick. Tim Patrick is also flirting as startable. He's not must-start, but he's startable, and he's getting noticed now. And they each provide like good vibes during. What am I saying? God, I lost track. Oh yeah, the Broncos. They each provide good pointage for fantasy owners. They're startable, but they're not must-starts yet. Noah Fant, he's startable. If you have one of the most elite tight ends, you can start them over Fant. But Fant is in that level amongst the tight ends, so he's very startable. Extremely startable. So, yeah. That's that with the receiving game. As for the running backs, Melvin Gordon has great flex usage. As a receiving back and a regular running back, he's good for PPR leagues. But his place is being overtaken by Javonte Williams, who's also has good flex value and is maybe faster and stronger than Melvin Gordon. I know he's stronger, and he can really get to the end zone. Javonte Williams is good flex value. As for the Broncos defense, that's a must start. The Broncos have a pretty good defense this season, so yeah, you don't want to bet against that defense. And yeah, must start most of the times, but can be turned to startable or matchup dependent on the situation. But that's the Broncos situation. The Raiders were off to a really hot start this season, but now there's so much chaos going with them. They've lost 2 in a row. Their head coach, John Gruden, was just fired over a controversy, which I'll talk about in a different video, and so much more. So, yeah, let's get started. Derek Carr is startable. He was flirting with must-start territory. He was doing really good, and I was about to say he might be in the must-start territory until the last 2 games happened against Chicago and against the Bears and the Chargers. He has must-start potential and is in must-start territory, but he also is prone to being human. So, yeah, he has good games and bad games. So that's all I can say about Derek Carr. If you have better QBs, you can just start him over him. But if you don't, he's startable over those QBs. As for the receiving core, it's decent fantasy wise. Hunter Renfrow gets a decent to good amount of points. I enjoy Hunter Renfrow. He's almost in unicorn territory, where you weren't expecting him to be this good at fantasy, but he is. He's been getting touchdowns or targeted in the red zone a lot in the past few games. So, yeah. And then there's Henry Ruggs, who's really super dependent on big playability. So, when he makes a big play, he ends up getting a good amount of points, and he's very useful fantasy wise. Byron Edwards, you can't. His usage is inconsistent, so you can't trust that. Zay Jones as well. Let's see, who are some other? Oh yeah. Speaking of lead receivers, let's not forget that the Raiders have one of the top 3 tight ends in the league, who's their lead receiver and their best player. The one and only Darren Waller. Darren Waller has been having his ups and downs this season due to fluctuation in targeting, but rest assured, when they have to really, really get Darren Waller to get going, he will. And he's a must start. He's one of the must start tight ends. So, yeah. Even with a bad game, he will still get you double digits. He might get you 20 points, depending on the usage. But, yeah. Waller is very must start, matchup nightmare. You can't just not use him. Or bench him in favor for someone else. Unless it's his bye week. Now, we're at the running backs. Josh Jacobs is actually a decent running back fantasy-wise. In a PPR league, he does handle some receiving stuff, but he's also a power back. He powers through injuries and a lot of things. He's very tough. He's very awesome. And he's really good fantasy-wise. He is startable. He's in must-start territory, but yeah, he's very startable, must-start territory. Their backups for him, Kenyon Drake, has a good flex value when he's being used very well. But yeah, Kenyon Drake, not bad. Peyton Barber is only dependent on if Josh Jacobs is out of the game or injured. The journeyman running back, no fantasy value at this moment. So yeah, even though Jacobs gets injured pretty easily. But yeah, that's it for the Raiders offense, fantasy-wise. The Raiders defense, stay away from that. Not a good fantasy value team. One of the worst defenses. Their pass rushing is not as bad due to some certain players, but other than that, stay away from the Raiders defense. It's not great. It's not useful. It could be match dependent, but it's no good. Now it's time for the reigning AFC champs in fantasy relevance. The one and only AFC Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, a team filled with nothing but fantasy value for the most part, or so we thought. Anyways, let's get started. Patrick Mahomes. Don't have to say much about him. Must start. Was the number one quarterback in fantasy football at one point. The man can do anything. Even in his worst games, he still gets you over 20 points. He's one of the absolute must starts. Don't question it. Must start. Let's see. Another easy option receiving is Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is another must start. Tyreek Hill is one of the must starts of wide receivers because he's a human cheat code. With that speed and just agility, with that deep break, like I said, with that big play ability, and any play that he does, he's hard to match up against. He's usually double teamed, and he will score you a lot of points. He has, for me in the past. And let's see. Nicole Hardman gets decent fantasy points. He's not startable like Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, even though they're more than startable. But yeah, it's decent. Josh Gordon has just recently got reinstated, and he's with the Chiefs and played his first game with them in Buffalo. I predict his usage will most likely increase, and he might gain some major fantasy relevance again, like he did back in his Cleveland days. But yeah, just be on the lookout for that. And then there's Pringle and Demarcus Robinson. So much super special wide receivers. As for the running backs, Clyde Edwards-Helaire was in the must-start territory before. He was doing great. But he got injured, so he's going to be out for a while. Which means Daryl Mooney can get some significant increase in his fantasy value, but we're not sure yet. It's a weird situation running back wise due to Clyde Edwards-Helaire's injury. As for that, let's see. Pretend to be his sister and yep. Actually, crap. Forget the last thing I said. I'm really sleepy, so I'm just like mumbling. I apologize for that. Basically, what I was saying was you have to be on the lookout for possible free agents to take over in case Darrell Williams does not do a good job. As for the Kansas City Chiefs defense, stay away from it. Maybe even in matchup dependent situations, you can go for it, but stay away from it. Stay away. That is not a good defense. It is not a good defense fantasy-wise at all. So, yeah. That is it for the AFC. The AFC, not just the AFC West, but the whole AFC in general. My next FANTage videos are going to be for the NFC, so be prepared. And have a good night.